Good to be with you again. You know, some years ago, Carl Menninger, the great American psychiatrist, said that we Catholics are really foolish if we didn't focus more on the saints. We don't have to talk in abstractions about doctrine or morality. We can look to actual men and women who have lived the Christian gospel, lived the life of Christ, given us an example, and encourage us. I think this week we've had one of the saints who especially is relevant for our times, St. Maria Goretti. She died in 1902 at the age of 12. She had been the daughter of a poor tenant farmer in northern Italy. She never was able to go to school, never learned to read or write. They said at the time of her first communion, she was the largest of the children, most mature, but also the most backward in a way. One day in 1902, she was sitting in her home on the steps, mending some piece of clothing, and a man came in. He was 18 years of age, and obviously wanted to have intercourse with her. She struggled against him, insisting, no, this is sinful, this is wrong. And finally he took out a long knife and began to stab her, even killing her. As she lay in the hospital for some 24 hours before she died, she was thinking of her mother, how she would survive, and concerned to extend forgiveness to the man who had done this to her. Immediately, the word spread about her life, and many people came to know of it and began to pray to God through her intercession. And so it was in 1947 that Pope Pius XII was able to beatify her, and even had the 82-year-old mother, her two sisters and brother, on the great center balcony of St. Peter's as a huge crowd was gathered celebrating this holy woman, 12-year-old girl who preferred to die rather than to violate God's law. And 3 years later, in 1950, the Pope was able to declare her a saint, canonize her with the biggest crowd in St. Peter's Square, 250,000 people. And there was the man who had killed her. He had spent 27 years in prison, in the beginning very unrepentant, but one day he had a vision of her bringing flowers to him and telling him he was forgiven. And from that moment, he was a changed man, a repentant man. And so he was there in the crowd in 1950, celebrating the saint whom he had killed. I think the response of so many people to her life story is an indication of how many people realize it contradicts so many of the false values in our society today, where so many younger people especially have turned away from God and obeying his law. They see sex as just a way of experiencing pleasure without any sense of responsibility, commitment. Now, this is a wonderful gift of God to be utilized in marriage as a husband and wife give themselves to each other in unconditional love, and their love takes flesh in their children. We pray through the intercession of St. Maria Goretti today for all the people of our time, and especially the young people, that they will realize what a beautiful treasure God has given us in the gift of sexuality, and that we must obey God's laws. That's the way to true peace, true joy, true happiness. So again, God bless you and your family.